Today we have a fantastic guest. I get to interview my friend Katie Kelly. Katie is an expert recruiter committed to act in the best interests of both her clients and candidates by delivering a diligent and personalized experience for everyone involved. And she runs Ambrion. She's the managing director there. And Ambrion specializes in positions ranging from senior accountant to financial analyst to CFO, and has been recognized as the top accounting and finance firm in their area. Katie, thank you for hanging with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today, Donnie.
You got it. You got it. So before we get into all the good, juicy stuff, Katie, where are you at? I mean, I know where you're at, but can you share with everybody, where you live, what the family's like, and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, well, in my basement at the moment, as most of us have been working from home. But yes, in Minnesota, got my kids upstairs. So if you all of a sudden hear kids or dogs running around while we're chatting.
Right. Two kids, right?
2 kids.
How has it been running the business from home with the 2 kids?
I'm pretty thankful that my daughter, who's 12, really just handled it all on her own, being in 6th grade. She did a great job. And I have to say my son as well, when they were actually at school, at home, they did a great job of balancing it. It was different, right? I definitely had meetings like this, and that's why I said, I'm going to have a kid. You've seen my dog.
Yep.
Everybody interrupts me, and it usually happens like around 2 o'clock, which is 2 o'clock my time. This is about the time that's why I forewarned if anyone comes barging in.
Cool. Well, we'll interview them if they come in too, so no problem.
yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wish I could say the same. Our kids have, we've got our family that's, everybody's had their challenges with COVID and working from home and the kids, and so I'm just super pumped that we're all finally moving past the stage. Looks like finally,
Yeah, if anything, it teaches you just how to really have to balance family and work, right? There's a lot of blessings that come from the fact that I could understand what my daughter was doing during a day, and she could see me working as well, which, I definitely want to be, obviously someone that my kids can look up to and say, that's what I want to be when I grow up, although my daughter does not want to be a recruiter when she grows up.
Why not? You can start training her now. That's awesome.
I know. She said I talk too much. Well,
She said I talk too much. Well, I think that's really cool and inspiring that you kind of look at it that way, that you can, be an impact and influence on her, and she can see, her mom busting her ass and taking names. So, I think that's
there
awesome.
is a little pressure though, right? Because you come upstairs and did you close a deal today? Did you make business today? What happened today? Doesn't happen like that every day. Close. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's close every day, almost every day. But,
right. So let's talk about your journey. I mean, how did you get into the recruiting industry? How did this all happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's like a lot of recruiters. I don't know that anyone goes to college thinking I'm going to be a recruiter. I didn't even think I would be in sales, to be honest. I graduated with a finance and a management degree, and being young, I was like, ooh, I have a management degree. I'm going to be a manager, right? And I got that job. I worked for a great organization, Aldi, which is a grocery store retailer, and I was a district manager for them. And I had a lot of responsibility, but I just wasn't passionate about it. It wasn't where I wanted to be. And I do the thing that, we advise candidates not to do, which is I quit my job without a job, right? And I had just bought a house, and I didn't have a car because I had a company car, and I was 24 years old with a mortgage payment. And I said, Dad, I'm going to quit my job. And he said, I'm not going to pay your mortgage. But I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And I thought, well, I have this finance degree. Since management wasn't it, let's pursue this finance degree. And called all my girlfriends that I went to school with who were all working in accounting and finance. And one of my girlfriends gave me a stack of names, and I remember printing out all these names of recruiters. I didn't even know what recruitment was at that point. I thought I had to pay for it, right? And I pulled the only female out of the stack, and I said, I'm going to call her. And I started with that one, and she worked at Ambrion at the time. And luckily she brought me in. I don't know what she saw on my resume, but she decided to bring me in and started talking with me, and one thing led to another, and the owner came in and said, "So what do you think about recruiting?" And here I am. The rest is history. I've been now here for 17 years, believe it or
Wow.
not.
That
Yeah.
is so cool. That is so cool. And
Yeah.
it's cool to hear like you went in with no even expectation to like go become a recruiter. You go talk to a recruiter and then you're recruiting for them. 17 years later, here we are.
Yeah, here I am. I never would have thought, and I feel so fortunate to have landed in that position because as you know, I'm very passionate about what I do. I love the recruiting space. So
Yeah, absolutely. So what was it like when you first, I mean, you obviously took that job, and I know I'm challenging you to go back a little bit here, but do you
oh
remember kind of how you felt the first day when you're like, now I'm a recruiter, I'm used to, I should be crunching numbers. That's what I was thinking I was going to be
yeah,
doing.
that's a great question. I very vividly remember my first week on the job, and my prior job, I was running store locations, and I would have 3 to 5 different store locations, a lot of responsibility. And at the time, I started on just business development, so only calling companies and trying to bring in new leads on the contract temporary staffing side of things. And they said, make 60 calls, today. And I was just like, okay, what else? And that was so it took me time. Like I had been working 4 a.m. till, 1 a.m. in the morning. I was just like nonstop at my old job. And then all of a sudden I was in this 9 to 5 job, just being told make phone calls. And I was like, okay, well, this can't be that hard, right? I mean, I just talk to people, right?
Right.
And that was like the beginning of my journey. And I very much remember, funny enough, I don't know if I've told you this, but I 3 months into this job, I was like, I don't want to do recruiting. Like I made a mistake. Like, one, my dad's going to kill me. Like I told him he didn't have to pay my mortgage and I hate my job already. Like, what did I do? Right. But at the time, there was someone on our direct hire team that had just, for whatever reason, he had really connected and bonded with me. And he said, you really need to come over and be a full direct hire recruiter. Like, I think you need to do it. And, because on the contract side, I was only on one half. And if you don't know this about me, I'm a little bit of a control freak. Only having the client side and not having the candidate side and making the marriage, that just wasn't working for my personality, bringing in the lead and then handing it off. Just, I wanted to finish it. Right. So, the gentleman, Paul, at the time said, you should really come over to the direct hire side, and the rest is history. Here I have been. So about 6 months into, I would say about 6 months in, I converted from being on the temporary staffing side, moving over to our division, doing direct hire placement at the time. So yeah. Right. So, funny enough. And then I was like, oh gosh, again, here I am now. He said I should do this and I was going to be good at it. And so, again, okay, maybe this will be it for me. Mm-hmm. And I had to just kind of hunker down and find ways of making money. And I very vividly remember my, first client that really gave me a lot of business and helped set me up for, honestly, where I am today. So
yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were gonna throw in the towel 3 months.
I was
3 months in. What was the thing that was like, what didn't you like? Was it just because it was new? Was it a grind? Like what was it that kind of?
It was just like all my challenges is making a bunch of calls in a day and talking to people and bringing in an order. And at the time when I started in this, in the market was really strong. It was at a time where Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX, it was like a brand new thing, right? And everyone needed a contractor. And so the market was good. Right. I could easily find a job order. The problem was at the time, it was really difficult to find individuals to fill jobs, much like it is today.
Got it.
When I began way back in the day here, 2004. So,
yep. Got it. So, and that's where the control thing kind of came in for you, is like you were finding the orders and then having to, the struggles of the back end filling. So you like that direct hire where you could run the full desk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to have both, and it felt more like a longer term relationship, which is something that is kind of our foundation of our firm and our agency, is just really forming those long term close relationships where we can be a true partner, we can be open and honest with each other. That's how we like to operate, and so it really worked well for my personality and having control.
So once you went that 3 months and you go to the direct hire side, thank you, had
Yeah.
that friend, you got your control.
Yeah.
When did you kind of say, you know what, I kind of like this, I kind of love this? When did that kind of click in for you?
When I started making money.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
then it's like, I joke around that recruiting is my drug. Like, what's next, right?
Right.
Because you get a deal and you're like, that's awesome. How do I get the next one,
Right.
right?
Right.
And it kind of, at that time, there was a client of mine. It was a Fortune 500 company here in the Twin Cities, a company by the name of Super Value. They're now UNFI. And at the time, way back in 04, 05, at the time, they had a ton of needs that were available, and there was an internal recruiter. She had done external like myself. She had run her own firm and had, kind of slowed down, was on the back half of her career, and she was internal. And I remember when she would call me with a need, and I would just be like, what do you need? And she would tell me, and I would send her resumes, and she would ask me questions, and I'd be like, I don't know the answer to that, right? Like, I don't know, I'll get back to you. And I had always just promised myself every time she called me, I was going to have that question and anything else like ahead of time. I wasn't going to not have the answers. And I still remember to this day, she said to me, Katie, you just get it. I was like,
What do
yeah,
I
what?
get?
And she said, it doesn't matter. You just get it. And she's like, you'll know someday. You just
Right.
get it. And that just really sat and resonated with me, like,
Right.
okay, like, I'm doing this, like, I'm making it happen. And I just, I was told, hey, pick up the phone, dial, you'll get connections, and this business will follow, right? Follow the path, follow the pattern. If you do what you're supposed to do, money will come. And it
Right.
did. And I'm not afraid of hard work. So the harder you work, the more money you make in recruiting. So that was the fun part about it. And that's what just kind of got me hooked, I guess, if you will,
Right.
way back then. Yeah.
Got it. So over the 17 years, I know you've grown into the company, and now you're kind of running the show a little bit, we'll say, right? You're the managing director and manage the team. How has that changed for you? I mean, how has your day-to-day changed?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I kind of stepped into the managing director role because I had just so much passion for kind of learning this business over the years and making a lot of money. And I wanted to see somebody else do that. I wanted to see them go through the journey that I had. And I wanted to be able to teach someone that, multiple people that. I mean, we do have a team of 8 individuals. We're a boutique agency.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really was the reason that I kind of stepped into my role, is to see others have all of the opportunity that I did and how much fun recruiting can truly be once you get the business. And I wanted to teach that. My day-to-day has changed. I still run a desk. I love recruiting. It would be hard for me not to be talking to my clients and my candidates. I just still, it is a piece of me that will never go away. So I'll always run a desk to some capacity, but I also really, the remainder of my day is a lot of coaching and mentoring and helping some of my newer staff and building those relationships and learning the tips and tricks of this industry.
Right. How long have you been sitting in that seat?
I am on my, time flies. 2018 is when I stepped into the managing director role.
Got it. That's awesome. So how has it been for you? You mentioned the main thing that you wanted to do is basically help others succeed like you succeeded.
Yeah.
Share a story.
Yeah.
How have you been able to impact some people in your organizations? This is a chance to brag a little bit, pat yourself on the back.
Yeah. Well, we have some really, I mean, I can't say enough great things about the staff that we have. I mean, we are so lucky to have, and I never thought that this would exist, especially, recruiting is a very competitive industry, and you compete with each other. We all want the same candidates. We all want the same clients, but this kind of goes back to, the foundation of why I've been at this agency for so long is we just have a really great collaborative group of people that I call family, right? If anyone needs someone, we are there for each other and we all step up. If it's because it's something outside of work, or there's been times when we went through downtimes as a team and it was just like somebody close a deal. And when you do, we all rally around. It's not a backstabbing environment. And so, the fact that, we've really been able to continue to foster that has been exciting. in terms of staff, just staff hitting new levels of growth has been what's been really exciting, and seeing new people come into this industry and really flourish, and teaching them that, there's just such a combination. This is going to play into what we talk about. There is a combination of my old school. This is where I start to have to stretch a little bit, right? My old school, pick up the phone and dial, to all of the other tools and techniques that you can now use out there, email, LinkedIn, and capturing talent, and, trying to help them to put those pieces together is really, it's been great. We had a record first quarter, best ever in the history of our organization just this year. The market is on fire, and the team showed up. I'm so proud of them.
That's awesome. So pumped to hear that for you. As you kind of go on to this path of 3 years of being the leader of your team, what are some of the challenges that you faced with the leadership, in the leadership position?
Yeah, the biggest challenge, to be honest, Donnie, was last year through COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been through the ups and downs of this industry. Right. And when we all shifted from working in office to being remote, I'm not going to lie, there was a little bit of a, oh boy, is this going to be the next downturn of the economy? And are we going to survive this? Because I went through the downturn of 08, 09, right? And I was a little bit nervous. And in that moment, I didn't obviously showcase my fear that something could happen. I, just shared with everyone what I knew is, this is when we have to just work harder. Right. This is why we have to put things in place. We didn't do any layoffs. We did not have to lay off last year. We actually remained steady throughout last year, where I know there are firms that didn't have placements for months on end, right? Yeah. And we were very fortunate not to have lost any revenue last year, and we didn't have any layoffs. In fact, we hired last year. Right. I had 2 new people last year that I was onboarding remotely. That's a challenge, leading in recruiting in a remote environment. That was different. I can't hear you. I can't hear you and help guide you because I heard you say something you shouldn't. So that's been definitely a way of challenging to keep my, more senior recruiters understanding that this is, just keep pushing. There's opportunity that will be out there. We just have to keep showing up. Right. And then, like I said, balancing that with new people, making sure that they knew, hey, listen, we'll get through this time. It's interesting times, but we'll do it together. So yeah. And you bring up, I think, a challenge that a lot of people had with managing a team, right? For those that had a team, what did you do? Like you said, the remote part. Okay, when we're in an office, it's hard enough to manage people and motivate and lead our team. Now you're remote. What did you do to kind of help that type of a process? You guys go to Zoom meetings all the time? How did you guys manage all that? Yeah, one of the things I think that the best thing that we did is we set a stand. We didn't have this when we were in the office. We didn't meet every day. We were in a bullpen, right? A bunch of cubes, and we could all chit chat all the time. And we love to do that. We're recruiters. We like to talk. Right. We definitely talk to each other more than we should sometimes. But we set a standing 8 a.m. meeting. Every single day we're online. Number one, it held me accountable for showing up on time, and I got to be ready for my day. Here we are. I have to be dressed because it's so easy. I think as you shift at least I was, even for myself, I can only speak for myself. If I get down there at 8:15, it'll be fine, and then it's 8:30. It's fine, right? I'll get going. But when you kind of keep pushing that time, you never show up, right? And everything starts to get pushed in the rest of your day. And so that was one of the best things that we did. And I think, I'm going to go back to the way that we operate. It just really, we collaborate extremely well. And those times were really important to us. We started with, and I actually would talk with a lot of clients, what are you doing with your teams? And and I was making that recommendation to my clients, even hey, we're doing a daily Zoom meeting. And our team loved it. We would have coffee together. Sometimes, honestly, it was just a BS section. We didn't talk about anything important besides, hey, what'd you have for dinner last night? Right. Yep. It definitely helped us to connect. And
I think at that time, at that time, there's a lot of. I think everybody needed just any type of human interaction that they can get,
Yeah.
so that, I think that's
Yeah.
huge. That's huge. What is
Yeah.
it? What do you guys now that you guys have kind of gone remote, like, are you guys considering to hybrid now? Or are you guys going to go
Yeah.
back to the office full time once the lid's lifted, or what's the
Yeah.
plan?
We miss each other. We're going to be
Yeah.
back.
You're
We're
going
going
to
to
be
be
back.
back together. Yeah.
Cool.
We are excited to be back together. But we don't want to do it all the time. So we're going to do a hybrid model. We like
Cool.
our flexibility too. I mean, it's nice not to, have the distraction when you're on the phone, and I'm a loud talker. So yeah, I would say that my staff is probably happy I'm not pacing and being loud
Right.
talking to someone.
That's why they shove you in the basement down at home, huh?
Yeah, that's a true statement. That's a true statement. My son all the time, Mom, I hear you, ha 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 ha, downstairs. Oh, well,
Funny. That's funny. Cool. Well, that's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And what your team's lucky to have you leading the charge there. I want to kind of transition into some of the work that we did, together. I mean, what initially motivated you to reach out to me?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a few things. First, we were embarking on doing a rebrand or refreshing our brand anyway. Our name didn't change. We just changed the look.
Right.
And completely changed our online website and things like that. And that kind of spurred, okay, we're doing something new and fresh. I had been doing some networking. I had met with another recruiter whom you've partnered with, who I think had used you for a period of time, and your name somehow popped up in my feed, to be honest. And I started reading about some of the work that you did, and it kind of went back into the rebranding, what we wanted as a team. Like, we as a team really wanted something new and fresh, and we wanted to show up differently to our clients. And, I think your program, at least what was enticing me, is that your program might help us to show up in a new way. I would say that was one. The second is, I'm an old school recruiter. I was like, Donnie, I grew up before LinkedIn. Like, I was that's going to really age me, but like, I started in recruiting before LinkedIn. I thought LinkedIn was going to like ruin me as a recruiter, right? Like, no one will need me anymore, which is certainly not the case. But I am an old school recruiter, so I like, hey, pick up the phone. You got to call people, right? That's just the motto. But my new staff are certainly like, there's advantage of how we're connecting with people in other ways. Like, picking up the phone isn't the only way, and obviously that was the other appeal to your program is, make less calls, or and to me, it's not making less calls. It's about having another avenue of opportunity to connect with someone most importantly.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, and I think it's smart thinking, because I know a lot of people don't get out of their own way of knowing what they know, and that's the only way to do it, and being willing to, not only for yourself, for your team, to be able to look at, hey, there's another way that we can, another avenue, as you said, to, go about this, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can certainly be both. What was, I mean, were you guys facing, I know that the rebrand was kind of the big challenge. And I know you said that, like, as the company, you guys were actually very fortunate to stay alive and continue to maintain revenue and even add some people during, the downturn. But were there any specific challenges that you guys were facing before working together?
Before you and I working together? Yeah. I think just even, because you and I didn't start working together until late fourth quarter, right? And I think last year really posed to be, if you didn't have a cell phone number for someone, it was harder to reach them, right? So we were using LinkedIn already in other ways, and it was kind of challenging us to say, well, how are you going to connect with them? Do you have an email? Can you get in touch with them on LinkedIn? And so, that was an issue before, right? That was a problem. How are we connecting with people? But even more broadly, like, how are we marketing to people?
Right.
Besides the phone, how were we really getting in front of people? We did have some email campaigns that we were doing and continue to do, but beyond that, what else could we have done? And that's what kind of appealed. Like, to me, I'm kind of a lifelong learner. Like, I wanted, you know, what else can I know? What else can I do? And that's what kind of appealed to me. It was different.
Right. Love it. So what about our work together do you feel like has impacted your business the most?
The business and myself, I would say. I took a lot of growth out of partnering with you, Donnie. Your relationship with me means so much. So thank you for just even our communication that we've had. But I think what has really impacted the business the most is that we're showing up in a new way and people are recognizing it. I'm getting contacted saying, oh, I saw this post, or, hey, that was a great video that you have out there. And, you know, we're obviously seeing some incoming business coming from that, right? It's making a little bit easier. They say, right, it takes 7 touch points to really have someone to be comfortable enough to talk to you. And in my mind, again, I go back, like, there was no LinkedIn. They had to talk to me because I was calling them, right? And I don't know, there probably wasn't even barely caller ID when I started, right? I still had a flip phone. Like, there was no like email. I'm really making myself sound old today, but like that didn't exist, right? So it's nice to show up in a new way. We're still the same people. I'm delivering the same message, but I'm getting to do it on bigger scale. I can't talk to all of these, you know, all of my clients and candidates every day. I wish I could talk to all of them, but I can't. And working with you has allowed me to deliver some of those same messages to them and touch them more often in broader scale.
Awesome. Now, I mean, we're just, you know, like you said, we just kind of got started. We just kind of got finished with the initial 90 days. So we're really just scratching the surface. Have you had a chance to really implement much of this with your team yet?
You know, we haven't done a ton of it yet. And, you know, I wish we did, but we came when we started working together, end of November, the market was like light switch. I mean, we've been going gangbusters since then. That's my excuse for today. And you can later call me and tell me that's not an excuse. You got to figure it out, Katie. We've been talking about portions of your program, but definitely things that, you know, I certainly want to, you know, make sure that they carry through. And I'm still learning it, right? It's hard to teach something you're still learning. But we have talked about different things that they can do that are interesting on, you know, LinkedIn to get noticed and recognized. I had a conversation this morning with one of my staff, and I was like, yeah, do you want to do a video with me? and she was like, yeah, I think I could do that. Like, when though? Like, would I have the topic ahead of time? And can we, you know, yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Awesome. That'll be fun. So when should I expect that video from you? And
accountability. Always accountability, Donnie.
Always accountability. I love it. So I know one of the cool things that I think you guys had when we started working together is you guys had that salary survey. Would you mind sharing how we were able to like leverage that and drive some traffic and get some numbers to that survey?
Yeah. So we have been doing a salary survey for the past several years, and we've been, you know, being able to use and leverage that on email campaign to our contacts from what we had been doing before, and had some success. But I think, you know, one of the things that I took from partnering with you is I was able to get it out more broadly to more people. Right. And more individuals, and get more traction, both on the client and the candidate side. That drew a lot more people as an introduction to our firm, a lot of new people that didn't know me before. And it certainly raised a lot more awareness about our agency. So that was great.
Awesome. And you mentioned, you know, I mean, I think one of the things that you saw an impact on right away was actually your warm market to people as they started to kind of see you put yourself out there. I mean, can you share a little bit about that? Like how people were receiving you once they, you know, even your existing customer base?
Yeah, it's been both now. I would say initially it kind of built, right?
Yep.
Because you put your first video out there and you're like, who's going to watch that? Is somebody going to say something? It's a little nerve wracking,
Yep.
and to your point, it's, progress, not perfection. So it's not great. And I don't have a ton of videos out there. So for anybody looking, you can go back and see. It's only like 4 videos deep. But yeah, I had a lot of really great, warm responses right away. I mean, you told me I would. I did not believe you, but I was surprised by the amount of outreach of just people in my network that knew me well that said, wow, that was great. Like, good job. I saw you on LinkedIn. How great is that? I was getting text messages. I was getting emails. I was getting
Awesome.
phone calls. So, obviously immediate impact on just one video that really was kind of just a, hi, I'm Katie video. Right. So.
You brought up something, I personally know it, but just to share with the audience, I mean, how have you kind of overcome the fear of and I know that's something that still you work through of like a little bit of anxiety, and we all get it, of posting and content and things like that, but how have you been able to push through? Because I know you have.
Yeah. Part of it is the response that I've been getting, right? I did, I think it was my second video that I did. It was the biggest one with content in it, right? And someone reached out to me. So our agency focuses strictly in the Twin Cities market, right? Our niche is accounting and finance, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and surrounding area. And someone reached out to me from out of state with a phenomenal background. I was like, are you looking to move to Minnesota? Because I was like, this is a placeable candidate. I was impressed. And he had reached out and just said, your video somehow came into my LinkedIn feed, and I was hoping I could connect with you. That video really hit home to me. Thanks for sharing it. Will you be posting others? I was like, wow. So that was one. I mean, that builds your confidence, right?
Yeah.
You're like,
oh yeah,
wow.
Validation doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt. And the other, to be honest, was my 6-year-old, right?
Oh, okay.
He saw me doing a video, and I'm not going to lie, it was like take 25, right? And he looked at me and he said, Mom, it doesn't have to be perfect. It sometimes just has to be good enough. And I was like, oof. Progress, and then then Donnie pops in the back, progress not perfection, in the back of my mind. And I was like, you know what, he's right. Like, I'm taking lessons from a 6-year-old. Like, it's good enough. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, no one's expecting me to show up perfect, right?
Doesn't exist.
Otherwise I would have been an actress. I'm not an actress.
Right. I love it. So, I'll just be 6 years old, so I got about 12 years till I can hire him. I like it. He's
he might be my salesman. He's competitive, so he's got that
over him now. So. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I know that the content, I always ask people about the content because I know that's usually the biggest hurdle that everybody has to go through. And thank you for sharing the success and the stories and things like that. I mean, what would you say was probably the biggest surprise, most like surprising thing about going through the program and working with me?
Yeah. To be honest, it's the connections that I built. I'm a relationship person, and it just has been so great to have met other people that have been in the program or through your program that might have reached out to me after, or we've connected somehow. And just networking that way has been really rewarding part of just learning about how the recruiters operate and what they're doing. And so that was surprising. The other part that was surprising, I think, to me was how easy content was for me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be don't get me wrong. It's sometimes you get into like, I can't think of something, but the way that you operate your program and have everybody kind of sitting, chatting together and encourage people to connect with each other, it spurs those creative ideas.
Right.
And it makes you think, like, even the simplistic things, like some of the things that I post about or write about are things that we talk about as a team, right? Or I just talked to a client about something. I'm like, wait a minute, that's great content.
Yes.
Like, they want to know about it. Why wouldn't I share it with everybody else in mass form, right? Like, this is good stuff. So I was surprised how easy content is to kind of come up with. And then it's just a matter of getting it out there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm happy you shared that, because I think that's, also with putting yourself out there and then, finding the time. But I think a lot of it is like, well, what kind of value do I have to add? And, And you just brought up kind of one of the things that we teach is like, hey, to share the conversations of what you're having in the day is the easiest way to start, you know? And
Yeah,
I think, I think you've excelled with that for sure.
Yeah, I didn't believe you at first, so I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what
it's
kind
all
of."
coming out now. It's all coming out
It's
now.
all coming out.
Well, awesome. I appreciate you sharing the story, and it's been an
Yeah.
absolute, you know, pleasure working with you.
Same.
You know, looking forward to working with you and the team, you know, moving forward.
Yeah.
You know, in your journey as a recruiter, you know, over the last couple of years, I mean, who are some of the most influential people that you've been able to, you know, work with and have inspired you?
Yeah. Besides you?
Well, I wasn't asking about me, but yeah, sure.
You certainly have inspired me. You have inspired me to, you know, I'll give you a little credit, right? Like, I don't know that I went into your program thinking that there would be some sort of mentorship that was there in a different capacity, right? You've really lit this kind of fire underneath me to do something bigger, right?
Yeah.
It was always there, but you kind of, you know, you put more fuel on the fire to really set it off and make it happen versus just kind of sitting back and waiting for what moment is going to spark it, right? So I would certainly say that you've done that. Honestly, my team has really inspired me. I really value, they are friends, to be honest, friends, family.
Right.
They inspire me to be a better leader. They inspire me to continue to help grow the agency. They inspire me to continue to, you wouldn't believe how many of them rallied me for this conversation today. I've never been live before. I was a little bit nervous. But they were like, "You're gonna do great. You'll be fine. You're so wonderful. You'll like knock it out of the park." I mean, that's I mean, they certainly inspire me. You know, my family, obviously, but beyond that, honestly, a lot of my clients and candidates that I partner with inspire me, watching them on their journey of their careers. And I've been so fortunate, you know, like through your program, I actually, someone that had really inspired me was a female CFO that I had known and kind of partnered with. And your program inspired me to interview her. Like, I'd never interviewed anyone before, right? Not like this, right? And I asked her, and she was like, "Absolutely, I would do it." So one, that surprised me, right? Because I value her. She values me as a partner to her, so I'm sure that's also why she said yes. We trust each other. But you know, I really look up to some of those people like her that kind of get involved more and just like they use me as a recruiter. I'm inspired by their careers and where they take them and how they build their teams and kind of that natural curiosity. So
yeah. Love it. I mean, your you know, kind of desire to help people and make an impact on people's lives is obvious. It shines through. You know, we've had several conversations about, you know, the importance of your team and being, you know, quality leader. I know how important that is. So that's fantastic how much, you know, your team gives back to you and lights that fuel under your fire. I love to hear that.
Absolutely.
What are you most excited about now?
Oh, doing more videos, but honestly, yes. Like I want to get better at it, right? Like I will say the market, as you know, I mean, it's going crazy right now. There is a ton of opportunity right now for recruiters to make money. And so I'm definitely inspired by the market just to get out there and help people. And it's fun to see things moving as quickly as they are. It's a fun time in the recruiting space.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to kind of push myself because I am going to have to push myself because I'm busy, right? And we could work nonstop, but I'm definitely excited to leverage a lot of the things that I've learned to continue to build our brand online and get our name and our faces out there and see how that kind of continues to build our presence in a market like right now, right? When people really need us. So it's a great time to show up. It's just getting the time, getting the time to do it. So,
well, you guys have some good challenges to have right now. So that's for dang sure. And it is funny how the market's just flipped over. It seems like almost overnight, you know,
it's great.
People were running to me trying to help with client development at the end of the year, or all last year, really, in the end of the year. And even in the beginning of this year. And just like, I feel like February is just like, poop, like, hey, can you support with the candidate side of things? Like, yeah, we can help with that. Yeah, you know.
That is absolutely the case. Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, good for you guys. I mean, for everybody that's listening, Katie, where can they connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Find me on LinkedIn. My face is out there, right?
Yep.
So that's a great way to connect with me.
Awesome. Awesome. And for those of you that are still hanging here, listening live, the millions of you that are with us live right now, we have millions of people watching, Katie. This is
Millions. That's great.
yeah, Relevant Recruiter Show is about as big, quite a step behind the Super Bowl, but we're hitting there. Give Katie a little like, a little love for sharing her value today. Appreciate you taking the time, Katie. What is the number one piece of advice you would give anybody, any recruiter that's listening to this right now?
Oh, I mean, honestly, just try something different, right? Get out there and put yourself out there. I know you and I have talked a lot about that. It's nerve-wracking putting yourself out there, but I've done that and continued to kind of push myself to put myself out there in a different way. I put myself out there all the time as a recruiter, but put yourself out there in a new way, show up in a new way, and just watch how the universe gives back to you.
Love it. Love it.
Fantastic.
Spot on. Spot on. Katie, thank you for hanging with me. Relevant Recruiter Group, those of you listening, thank you for hanging. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great weekend.